Greetings and salutations. Hello, this is a video on finding magnetic polarity. Here I have a neodymium iron boron magnet, yes? And then I have a glass plate. That can't be metal. It needs to be something really slick at least. And I have about a teaspoonful, you don't even need that much, of any kind of oil. I have olive oil here. Anything that's slippery, yeah, like baby oil, anything like that. Finding magnetic polarity. Even though I made this video before, I had numerous requests on finding polarity of a magnet. By the way, this is one of those 2x2 by 1 inch neodymium magnets that I've told everybody to get. I think everybody's asking me now because so many people bought these for seed experimentation. Anyway, that direction there is south, and that direction over that way is north, yeah? So here we go. We're gonna shake the magnet on the slippery plate and see what happens. Oh, look, there we go. And I even have the magnet marked that's the magnetic North Pole, yeah? So why would the magnetic North Pole of this magnet, yeah, which is facing north, magnetic north, yeah? But look this up because people don't seem to understand this, and it seems very few people know this, that the Earth's magnetic North Pole is there in the south, and the Earth's magnetic South Pole is this way in the north. That's also too the reason why, of course, you can see this side of the magnet is marked north, points towards the geographic north. Okay, let's repeat that again. The geographic north of the Earth is where the Earth's magnetic South Pole is. The Earth's geographic south, which is that way, is the Earth's magnetic North Pole. If you don't believe me, look it up, okay? Let's turn the magnet away in the wrong direction, since right now there's a little bit of surface tension. If it's really, really slick, and the magnet itself is just satin chromium plated, so it itself is not that slick. If I turn it this way, give the magnet a little bit of shake. Yeah, kind of hard to do this one-handed. It'd be easier to do it two-handed. But here we go, once again, yeah. Just turn it the wrong way again. Shake the magnet. Yeah, give it a little shake, there we go. So, whichever side of the magnet points towards geographic north, yes, is also too the North Pole of that magnet. The reason being, of course, is because the Earth's south magnetic pole is in the geographic north, okay? Pretty simple. Only thing you need is something slick, a few drops of oil, teaspoon of oil, and your magnet. Can't be any easier than that, right? To make it even more simple, whichever side of the magnet points to geographic north is also too the magnetic north of that particular magnet. But that's because that's where the Earth's magnetic South Pole is, yeah? Here we go. Let's flip it around again. Give it a shake. Ooh, it's hard to do this one-handed. There we go. Thanks so much for watching. So this is how you find a magnet's polarity without any scientific or fancy testing equipment.
I had yet to realize that I'd made a video about this. If you bear with me, I'm going to explain to you and then demonstrate to you one of the biggest secrets of current humanity when it comes to explaining the mechanics of the universe, a la redshift and blue shift. I don't know how much you know about redshift or blue shift. Stars that are moving away from us, relatively so, they are shifted towards the red end of the spectrum. Stars that are moving towards us, they are shifted towards the blue end of the spectrum. Now, hitherto, this has been explained with GR and QM, general relativity and quantum mechanics. But I'm about to show you and explain to you that Mother Nature, she has no idea, nor has she ever heard of general relativity and quantum mechanics. She only knows inertia and magnetism. Here we have a magnet, say 3/4 inch cylinder magnet. Here we have my buddy's invention, the ferrocell, which is inside a micron thin layer of special solution ringed by white light LEDs. I'm about to show you on a very small scale, which no one has ever seen before in any video ever. No one's ever seen redshift at a level like this moving very slowly. let's say 1 mile an hour, I'm going to show you red shift and blue shift. But I'm going to show you relative disparity. Now, as I've already talked about in my book, and I mentioned before, I'm going to place the magnet underneath the ferrocell. Let me turn the lights off so you can see better underneath the ferrocell. If I place the magnet right here, I know simply by looking underneath this ferrocell, since the magnet is static and is static relative to the lights over here, but it doesn't matter how I orientate it. This side of the magnet is bluish in color. It's green, but it's bluish, and over here it's reddish. We have a phase disparity, and this is also proof of why my seed experiments work this way. We have EM retardation. That's technically what it's called, electromagnetic retardation. I know that this is the North Pole because it has a ratio of 1 to 5. We have compression here and rarefaction here. Compression, the blue end of the spectrum, is more bluish. It's greenish blue, but it's still blue. At a ratio of 5, 1.618, 033, etc., etc., and a ratio of 1 over here. Now this is static. I don't know if you know how an AC generator works, but it works, and this is Tesla's invention, of course, but an AC generator works exactly the same. Now this is the plane of inertia. By the way, this is one pole of the magnet, this is the other pole. But a magnet doesn't have poles, as I've explained many times. Mother Nature does not have poles. She has the inverse of counter space. The inverse of inertia is force and motion. These are force and motions. See, Mother Nature does not draw a line like us humans. She doesn't draw a line like here, here. Mother Nature only knows how to draw a line like this. Here, here, here. That is polarity. Polarity is only the inverse of inertia. The inverse of counter space, force and motion, the creation of space. Space is nothing. Space is literally the absence of inertia. It is literally the wake front as left behind from the release of inertia, as magnetism reciprocates, which is the dielectric field from one quote-unquote pole to the other. So here we're able to see the phase shift, the static phase shift, which I've already explained in the third edition of magnetism. Now we're talking about stars that are moving endless millions of miles per second. How on earth could I show you that phase shift, the disparity of motion, is purely electrical, was technically magnetic and dielectric, but is purely electrical in nature? Is simply based upon phase disparity. Now, if this were an AC motor, I don't know if most of you know how an AC motor works, we'd actually have our copper windings around here. We'd have internal motor, which is hooked to a crankshaft. Let's say water's turning the crankshaft, and it's turning the magnet, and this magnet is turning. The only thing an AC motor is, and listen closely, is an inside-out magnet. We have the plane of inertia on the outside, and we have the magnetism on the inside. Obviously, Mother Nature does not work that way. This is how we generate electricity. The entire world generates electricity off the premise of Nikola Tesla's invention that such an AC generator, a power generator, is in its very simplistic essence a magnet turned inside out. A magnet, we have the plane of inertia at the very dead center. The opposite, they're the inverse of force and motion, centrifugal divergence. We have the plane of rest of inertia. If you're able to put two magnets together and place a Gauss meter at the center of those two magnets, it would register no magnetism. Well, that doesn't make any sense, but it's an absolute undeniable fact. The center of everything, there is not that which is opposite to the center. At the center of gravity, the center of the Earth, there's no gravity. At the center of a magnet, there's absolutely no magnetism. This is exactly what it is. Force and motion, inertia and acceleration. How does this explain redshift and blue shift? EM retardation, the disparity of motion. Here we have zero motion and we have a phase shift, a blue phase shift and a red shift, which exists at a ratio of 5 to 1 or 1 to 5, depending on how you look at it, which is actually an egg shape. It's a perfect egg shape. If you're able to cut an egg, dissect it in half, we'd have the pointy tip up here, which exists at a volume, a ratio of 1, and down here the larger, fatter section of the egg, which exists at a ratio of 5, so 5 to 1, which together is 5 squared, which is 2.1618, so on and so forth. So, how am I able to simulate on this tiny, tiny little scale, moving about 1 mile an hour, stellar redshift and blue shift? The only thing I have to shift is this magnet, relative to the lights here. Let's say I'm an observer on a planet over here, and this is a star. Let's say I'm another observer on the opposite end over here. Let's recreate redshift and blue shift. Remember now, this is red and this is blue. But how can I shift that? Relative motion to the disparity of the electricity, i.e. light, which is a coaxial circuit, transverse electrical, magnetic, longitudinal dielectric. Let's show you phase shift. Now look closely and I'll explain it. You see how this is blue now? As it was approaching, it went to blue shift. If I move it away, let's just look at this one pole only. Let's ignore this pole over here, okay? You notice that this red shifted now? Let me move this closer to a person over here. Let's say there's a person on a little planet over here, and this is a star. Okay, now it's red shifted. Let's move this star closer to this person over here. You see how this blue shifted? Let's move it away and watch this blue, which is bluish green, but it's still blue shifted, turn to red. Red shift. Blue shift. We're only looking at this pole over here. A second. I think I had a little power outage there. There we go. Blue shift. Red shift. Red shift, moving away from this relative point. Now let's take a look. Let me check my power connection here. Let's take a look at the other pole. Hold on a second. There we go. Sorry about that. Let's take a look at the other pole over here on the right side. Let's orientate my magnet exactly. Okay, let's wait for it to appear. There we go. Let's take only a look at this. Blue shift relative to this person over here. Let's say this point over here. Blue shift. As it moves away relative to this point, we have red shift. You notice how it shifted to the red? Now watch it shift again. Remember, only looking at this pole on the right side of my finger. Okay? Red shift, blue shift. Red shift, blue shift. Inverse to the other pole. Look closely. Nothing has changed other than disparity of EM retardation. It has nothing to do with space. Has nothing to do with time. It is EM phase shift disparity, or EM retardation. This is also the differential that is programmed into every global positioning satellite relative to its motion. This has nothing to do with Einstein, has nothing to do with general relativity, and has nothing to do with quantum mechanics. The universe is purely dielectric and magnetic. If you want to think of it as electrical, that's fine. Electricity is phi times psi, Q and Planck of electrification. Electricity is a hybrid. That which we call gravity is nothing other than incoherent dielectric acceleration, or increasing inertia, centripetal convergence, or that which we call magnetic attraction. They're one and the exact same thing. So what you're looking at here is nothing to do with space or time. Everything in the universe is purely electrical. Space is not anything that acts on anything. Tesla said this. He said it many times. This is also why Tesla called Einstein a fuzzy-haired crackpot. For the reification of nothing, i.e. space, as that which acted upon things, which is the premise of GR and QM, general relativity and quantum mechanics. But the universe does not work that way. The universe is purely electrical and electrical only. Magnetic, dielectric, centripetal convergence, centrifugal divergence, and here we have the magnet, which is the reciprocating precessional hyperboloid that defines the simplest nature of the entire universe, the plane of inertia, and we have the disparity of polarity, which exists at a phase shift of phi to 1, or phi squared together, 2.618033, so on and so forth. But relative motion to a point has nothing to do with space or time. It is called electromagnetic retardation. And this is the exact same way. Instead of this motion in an AC generator, what we're actually getting is this motion where the magnet is turning and turning and we have copper windings around here. The only difference between me showing you the phase shift this way and how an AC motor works, which is like this, I can't actually make this thing spin and spin and spin, is we have the plane of inertia outside here and we have the magnet on the inside. An AC motor, in its most simplex definition, is an inside-out magnet. And Mother Nature does not work that way. She doesn't like to work that way. But by turning this magnet relative to a plane of inertia, the thousands and thousands of copper windings that make up an AC motor. The magnet is spun via water, hydroelectric, nuclear, off of steam. It doesn't matter what turns this magnet inside the copper coil. It's creating a phase disparity, which equals E, electricity. All electricity in the entire world runs off the premise of Nikola Tesla's invention, which in its most simplest form, if Mother Nature was a chick and she were to look at the most simple thing that powers the entire world, an AC generator invented by Nikola Tesla, she would declare that is an inside-out magnet. Taken the plane of inertia and brought it out here and placed the magnet right in the center, which is exactly how it works. But back to redshift and blueshift. I'm showing you redshift and blueshift at a rate of 1 mile an hour, which no one has ever seen before. Because the only way to show this is with my buddy's invention, the ferrocell. I predicted this too before I ever discovered the ferrocell existed. But this is the first time anybody on Earth has ever seen this. Ever. Period. No one's ever seen this before. Redshift and blueshift that we typically think of on the order of magnitudes of stars moving at endless millions and millions of miles a second can be replicated here in my hand, showing you that redshift and blueshift is phase disparity of relative induction. That seems like a mouthful, but it's really, really, really simple. We're talking about recreating this phase shift that exists on a magnet that I'm able to see at a ratio of 5:1, and recreating that and shifting it at the basis of the magnet due to relative motion of the field perturbation, i.e. the light that is feeding it. You're seeing phase shift right here. You can see this turn from blue to red as I move it, and vice versa on the other side. Look, you are seeing phase shift. Doesn't matter how I turn it, it's going to be the same. And the only thing an AC generator is this spinning around inside the plane of inertia. But we're talking about redshift and blueshift here, and explaining it in very simple terms. There's someone else, a very, very, very intelligent man. I think he held 2 doctorate degrees. He never discovered this, but he simply said, in a very kind manner, that there's Dr. Oleg D. Jefemenko, that GR and QM was nonsense, except he said it in a very, very scientific way. Electromagnetic retardation, EM retardation, and theory of relativity. However, this book is not about supporting the theory of relativity, it's about destroying the theory of relativity. Everything that Einstein fed us was the reification that the universe is not electrical, but that space and time acted on things, warped things. This is not the case. The reason that light bent around the sun, as we observed in the famous experiment from decades ago, had nothing to do with curved space and time. That's an absurdity. That's like saying unicorns or leprechauns caused something to happen. It's an absurdity. It's an absurdity. What happened was the EM retardation of that light striking the edge of, say the Earth is over here, this is the sun, the light striking the edge of this point of dielectric acceleration, or what we call the gravitational acceleration of the sun, and is warping, bending the light. But it has nothing, this is simply an electrical phenomena. It has nothing to do with space and time. This book is so full of math it will make your head spin. Proof after proof after proof that relativity is absolute BS. 2 doctorate degrees. This guy wrote many books. I wished he were still alive. He did not make this discovery that I showed you over the past 10 minutes or so. But the premise for it is essentially the same. We're talking about the universe being purely electrical. Space and time are not things which act upon things. If you think they are, then you're of the same foolish mindset that leprechauns and unicorns and angels and fairies are influencing humanity. And of course, I'm sure there's many idiots out there that believe that nonsense, but that's a point for another discussion, of course, isn't it? So you're the first person on Earth to see this. I showed you, at a scale of 1 mile per hour or less, redshift and blueshift, using my buddy's invention, the ferrocell, and a simple cylindrical magnet. I showed it to you. There's no denying it. There's no refuting it. If you want to reproduce it yourself, go ahead and reproduce it yourself. But this simplex macro experiment, which I've done many times, but this is the first time I've ever shown it in a video, proves that general relativity and quantum mechanics notion that space and time are that which play a part and parcel in the math or the cosmic mechanics of redshift and blueshift and stellar and galactic movements is absolute BS. The universe and Mother Nature is electrical. It is only electrical. Space and time are not entities which do anything. I'll tell you what they are. They are measures and magnitudes. They are the slide rules which define the nature of existence and the motions between masses. They are nothing other than tape measures. And as we both know, tape measures do not build houses. Okay? That's all time and space are. They're measures and magnitudes of phenomena and their motion. It is how human stupidity and humankind have defined and reified the nature of existence and the motion of bodies. The ancient Greek Platonists knew this, and they wrote about this extensively. The ancient Indians knew this and wrote about this extensively. Plotinus knew it, Pythagoras knew it, Plato knew it, Demasius, Numenius, Sri Sankaracharya of Advaita Vedanta, Rigveda, Samaveda, Atharvaveda. All of these people knew the definition of space and time. They knew what it was and what it was not. Us, with our modern inventions and our technology, we think we know, but we don't know. Thanks to the foolishness and the insanity of Albert Einstein and the quacks that have fallen into the cult, the religion of particle physics is strictly ancient Greek atomism that's rehashed. We have a false picture of the universe. I can tell you right now that Mother Nature is not a cross-eyed chick with a calculator, a slide rule, glasses. She's like a naked, hairy armpit chick wearing like a hemp loincloth, frolicking with dirty feet through the woods. Cosmic mechanics do not work according to the premise and the insanities, the rabid mental machinations and pathetic absurdities of quantum mechanics and general relativity. Math is the science of humans counting and measuring things, okay? Mother Nature does not do math. She does not have a slide rule or a calculator. Everything in the universe is force and motion and inertia and acceleration, centrifugal divergence, centripetal convergence, relative motion. There's not a single straight line in the universe. Everything is curvilinear. Not a single straight line in the universe. This is the curvilinear hypertrochoid that you see underneath the ferrocell. Magnetism in its true and naked form. No one has ever seen magnetism. I predicted this formation perfectly before I ever even discovered this device existed. And I was proven right by this device. So thanks to my buddy for inventing it. Thanks for watching. Catch you later. If you like this video, you can drop me a buck or two. A lot of confusion out there amongst people about magnetic healing. Before I get into that, let me first state that I am a hardcore hater of quack science, especially quack medical science. Hater. A lot of people associate magnetic healing with science quackery. Well, in this case, this is the one time where they're wrong. They used to think that natives that chewed on a tree bark to alleviate pain. These people are crazy. Well, it turns out that's aspirin. Let's talk about polarity and what defines healing and what doesn't define healing. And now here we have the South Pole of the magnet, here we have the North Pole. It is the case that each quote-unquote pole of a magnet has two different field modalities. It has centripetal magnetic field, or the entropy towards increasing inertia, centrifugal divergence, centripetal convergence. The field, you can actually see this underneath the ferrocell. You can see it under a dozen different tests. You can see it with a Gauss meter. There is a high point of magnetic flux that's even measurable with any Gauss meter right at the center. It tapers off in the intermediate zones, and then it increases towards the edge, which is max. The maximum point of magnetic flux is at the center, but the center is completely inverse to the centrifugal edge. Now, it doesn't matter what shape the magnet is. It could be any sort of freaky shape. Magnetic field is always spherical. Okay, so even though this is a cube magnet, it's a 2 by 2 by 1 inch neodymium iron boron in 50 Gauss, the field is always circular. Always. You can see this underneath the magnetic field finder. You can see this with a Gauss meter. Period. It's undeniable. So we have a high point here that you don't want to use, and you have an intermediate zone right here of centrifugal divergence. What you want to use is the centrifugal edge. Now, which side Which pole do you want to use for what? Well, it's the same in medicine, in traditional medicine, or conventional Western medicine, that, you know, you want to arrest growth on some things and you want to increase growth on others. Well, what do you want to arrest? Well, if you got a cancerous tumor or a cancerous skin lesion, you wouldn't want to promote growth, would you? No, you don't want to give a jump start to cancerous cells. What would you want to give a spurt to? Well, you know, say you've got a cut, say you've got a muscle spasm, say you've got, you torn a ligament or something like that. Well, that is something that you do want to spur on. Some things you want to relieve pain, obviously so. Everybody wants to relieve pain, but I mean, it depends. It's not just using the South Pole of the magnet. You also want to use the North Pole for certain things. The North Pole actually inhibits healing. South Pole actually stimulates healing. Cuts, bruises, wounds, so on and so forth. You want to relieve pain? Well, you want to use the South Pole for relieving pain. No. For relieving pain, you would want to use... Well, that doesn't make any sense. You've said something counterintuitive. I mean, I've got a cut, and I want to relieve pain. Yeah, well, relieving pain and actually accelerating tissue regeneration are two different things. So this is the issue that you've got. It's like, well, I can use the South Pole of the magnet here to actually increase healing of my cut, but it isn't going to reduce pain and inflammation, which would be the South Pole. Well, you have to make up your mind. Do you want to live through a little bit of pain, or do you want to heal faster? Well, in some cases, you know, the pain certainly far exceeds, you know, your necessity for healing at a faster rate. So, this is the case. So, North Pole for relieving pain, reducing inflammation. It produces alkaline effects on the North Pole. This is the North Pole, excuse me. I flipped over there. Fighting infections. Obviously, as I've shown you with my seed experiments, the North Pole actually causes stunted growth. So if you have a bacterial infection, what would you want? Well, you don't want to use the South Pole, which is going to make them happy and thrive, the same way you wouldn't want to use this for... You wouldn't want to use the South Pole for cancer, because it's going to accelerate the growth and the mitosis of the cancer. You wouldn't want to use it for microorganisms. You wouldn't want to use it for infections. You would want to use North Pole. Obvious and logical. Same thing in medicine. You know, you want to stunt some things, retard some things, and other things you want to go faster. So that is the difference. Here we have EM phase shift retardation along the North Pole. Here we have EM phase shift compression. Compression here, rarefaction here. But I mean, both sides, the same in medicine, are beneficial depending on what it is that you want to do. You want to, reduce the pain, North Pole. You want to increase healing, South Pole. One excites and the other retards. This is excitation along the South Pole. This is retardation along the North Pole. That's technically what it's called, EM phase shift retardation. Now, how do you use it? It's the same way that you can see with the Gauss meter, same way you can see underneath the ferro cell, same way you can see with the ferrofluid and magnetic viewing film, is you're going to use the centrifugal edge. Say I had a cut right here or something like that. You would want to, I'm not getting this powerful magnet too close to my camera, I would want to use the edge right here. Either apply it or run it along like this. Okay, so you're using the centrifugal edge. So you're going to look, doesn't matter what shape the magnet is. It could be cylindrical, it could be cube like this, doesn't matter. The field is always spherical circular. Okay, so I'm using this line here like a knife edge for my intended use and purpose. Okay, not like this. Okay, well that's this north side. I'm gonna no, like this. You see? Not like this, like this. You can actually not, you want to get this too close to your head, you can actually bring this along your lip, which is very sensitive, or the tip of your nose, which has a lot of receptors, or even electromagnetic receptors in the human nose, just as there are cryptochromes in the human eye. And you can actually, without touching your nose or your lip, you can actually feel this. If you run it along your nose or lip, you can actually feel it without touching your nose or your lip, because there are very sensitive. Same way that sharks have electromagnetic receptors in their nose, various animals, lots of animals actually, have electromagnetic receptors in their snout. Humans have a few too, just as humans, like birds, have cryptochromes in their eyeballs. This is an absolute fact. So you can actually feel this. You can actually feel the field. I kid you not. If you want to try this, go ahead and do it. You just run it along your nose, the tip of your nose, or right underneath your nose, along your lip. You can actually feel, not lying to you, if I'm lying, I'm dying. You can actually feel the magnetism without this actually touching your face. Promise you, it's a really neat trick. I've had a lot of people do it. They're like, oh my God, I can feel it. It's like, I told you can. Of course, you generally don't want to get a powerful honking magnet like this close to your eyeballs or your brain. But you can do it for a minute or so without any harm. But that is the way you want to use the magnet. You notice I have a magnet tattooed on my hand here. Okay, just like that, not like this, like this. Okay, either application there or running along, depending on what you want to do, but not laying flat. Okay. Now, like I said, I am a hardcore hater of quack science. But here's the fact, Jack. Here is the fact. It's undeniable. It's irrefutable. 100% of the universe is supported by magnetism. Inner atomic volume in picometers of every atom is magnetism. The polarized water molecule, which this is, by the way, oxygen here, hydrogen here, hydrogen here. The polarized water molecule, basis for all life in the universe, as we know it, magnetism. It's a polarized molecule, you know. That which is holding up 90% of your body, roughly, water, polarized molecule. It reacts, and also the iron in your blood, did you forget about that? Reacts to magnetism. Magnetism gives volume to 100% of the universe. Anybody that tells you that magnetism has no effect on healing, as much as I hate quack science, I hate quacks, I hate quack medical stuff, you know, like stick a crystal on your forehead and turn north. You know, the hell with that nonsense. We're not talking about that crap. Magnetism. Okay? All the water in your body, polarized molecule. Okay? The entire universe, supported by magnetism. Nobody can deny that magnetism has effects on the human body. Birds navigate by magnetism. Many animals sense by magnetism. Sharks sense by magnetism. They have magnetic receptors in their snout, electromagnetic receptors. So, the hell with quack medical crap. We're talking about genuine uses and applications of magnetism regarding healing. Undeniable, irrefutable. I don't give a damn if you believe it or not. Doesn't matter. It does work. I've actually had a lot of people, you know, that denied the notion that it would work, but they thought they'd give it a try. It's like, oh my God, it does work. Now, you have to use powerful magnets. You can't buy those cheap ceramic little jobbies on eBay that are ferrite. You know, like the magnetic bracelets. You know, to hell with that crap. You got to buy the big, honking, dangerous, nasty, beastly, will absolutely hurt you. I mean, you get this caught, your fingers are caught between two of these magnets, you're losing a finger, baby. So, for magnetic healing, the answer is big, dangerous magnets. Not little dinky crap like you find at hardware. Big, dangerous. Magnetic healing, yes, only big, dangerous magnets. Some of them even much bigger than this, of course. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, drop a buck or two. Tell me to jump off a cliff, whatever makes you happy. Catch you later.